Another year has gone by, and much has happened around the world in Ghana and Brazil. For this Brazilian mission, it has been a very full year, and I must thank my indefatigable officers and staff for the work they continue to do, though so small in number, to keep the flag of Ghana flying in the 12 countries of continental South America. Doing our best to represent the country we so love, in the last 12 months, including Brazil, we have been to Argentina, Colombia, Ecuador, Guyana, Paraguay, Peru, Suriname, and Uruguay. That is 9 of the 12 countries. And as we were in Bolivia, Chile, and Venezuela the year before, this means in the last 2 years, we have been in each of the 12 countries, some of them more than once, on diplomatic, trade, consular, or diaspora engagement visits. In being received by the President of Ecuador last August, I became the first Ghanaian ambassador to succeed in presenting my letters of credence to the President of every country of accreditation on this continent, an achievement we celebrate. In Brazil itself, though we may not have been to every state, we have done similar visits to each of the 5 regions, some of them multiple times, for trade and agricultural fairs, consular visits to distressed Ghanaians, diaspora engagement visits to Afro-descendant communities, and diplomatic visits to state and municipal authorities, as well as, of course, the pertinent departments and ministries here in Brasilia in our ongoing work. In all this, we have achieved singular successes of which we feel justifiably proud. I will single out among these 2 firsts. The Amari Fashion Fair in the neighboring state of Guyana is the largest fashion fair outside of Sao Paulo, with the distinction that where Sao Paulo displays goods from all over the world, the Amari Fashion Fair displays goods made only in Guyana, the fashion hub of the country, with one exception. Last year, they welcomed an Africa pavilion, and for that, Ghana not only had the largest number of traders, the fashion show of Ghanaian fabrics, clothes, and accessories exclusively from Ghanaian designers was the standing room success of the show. We achieved a similar history-making event in Salvador de Bahia when last month we became the first international entity to have a cabin there during Carnival. We are grateful for the support of the Ministry of Tourism and the Association of Ghana Industries from Accra and Kumasi for their support in showcasing Ghana trade and culture and making this milestone such a success. At the end of this address, you will find a link to our photo gallery celebrating those events. Please enjoy it. Finally, I'm probably addressing you from this residence in Brasilia for the last time. This is an election year, and so certainly for myself, I can anticipate a change in circumstances. I was appointed by President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, who has served for 2 terms, so we know for sure, in accordance with our constitution, our president will change. The NPP has, as it must, chosen a different flag bearer to contend against the hopefuls from other parties. What is important for all of us is that we hold peaceful, fair, and democratic elections, and that all of us citizens accept the results. We have done so 8 times already since 1992. It is with a real sense of achievement, therefore, that we should all greet the theme for this year's Independence Day, our democracy, our pride, for it is true. For me, the single most important achievement of Ghana since independence is that the 4th Republic has held. The important thing is that as a civil society, we have in the end accepted all the decisions of the electoral commissions and the courts. In each case, as a community, we have elected to live in unity and fight another election at the appointed time, another day. That day is coming this year, and despite our ups and downs, seasons of joy and discontent, we are still a unified country at peace under the rule of law. We must be proud of that. I would like to conclude by quoting the closing paragraphs of my father's book, Africa in Search of Democracy, first published in 1967, the year after he returned to Ghana after the first exile and before he became Prime Minister of the Second Republic 2 years later. He ends that important book by saying, and I quote, "The ideals of democracy set challenging goals to each generation, and the response of each generation can be seen in the institutions it passes on to succeeding generations. To argue that no country is fully democratic, as some have done in order to excuse oppressive practices, is to misunderstand the nature of a political society that evidences faith in democracy. Such a society is the theatre of man's constant striving for better social justice and for a wider and wider scope for the development of individual and social life in dignity and freedom. Democracy is the expression of faith in man's capacity for the progressive extension of freedom and justice in society." Those words are as true today as when my father wrote them more than 50 years ago, when Ghana was still relatively new. May they remain so. Happy Independence Day to all fellow Ghanaians, wherever you may be.